In open conversations, Trump controlled by deep state, Trump is just the front. Namaste. Ever since Donald Trump has launched himself into the campaign, everyone notices the fact that he's very unlike the Trump we have known for years. Is this due to the control of the deep state, or has the man changed? We enter into this in our open conversation today with Dr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Sir, क्या वाकई ऐसा है that Trump has changed, or is he under control of the deep state?
Trump is a classical narcissist. It's very difficult for him to change. And it's too late to change. Definitely, he's under the control of the deep state. And it's fortunate for the world that he's under the control of a deep state, which is of a specific time. Ever since almost Kennedy, I would say, the deep state always has managed American democracy to a greater or a lesser degree. So America in that sense has been a managed democracy. In that sense, it's less democratic than India is. India in that sense is far less a managed democracy. It's largely a spontaneous free democracy, largely I would say. USA in that sense is largely a managed democracy. And Trump actually was an exception because the deep state had managed during Hillary's time to weed out, sideline, manage, silencing all serious candidates to Hillary. They had allowed Trump to come up as a candidate by managing to remove all his competitors in the hope that Hillary will be elected. The deep state miscalculated completely the mood of the people, just as Trump had miscalculated. Trump never thought he would win. He only wanted to be in the media to get fame as a contestant, to satisfy his own narcissistic desire for fame. But ironically, when he won, neither he nor deep state knew what to do, because both of them had prepared for Hillary's victory. So when Trump came in, he was one of the few non-managed, non-deep state presidents of United States. And he was completely unsettled, off guard. He did not know what to do. Deep state did not know what to do. So Trump started off on his own for the first 2 years, but the deep state sabotaged many of the things Trump wanted to do. And towards the end of his tenure, last 2 years, he was by and large, I would say, circumscribed in his powers by the deep state. So half of the Trump was already in control by the time he was in the last 2 years of his first term. Then the deep state managed to kick Trump off and bring in Joe Biden. Within the deep state, slowly the fissures started appearing. The deep state got segregated into 2 components. One component which was the woke jihadi communist component. And the second constituent of the deep state was the one which was idealistic, realistic, conservative, and pragmatic. And this part, which won over the other part, which managed to back Trump and managed to control media in Europe and in USA, and slowly start a pro-Trump campaign in a low-key manner. What changed further the resolve of this deep state, which was conservative, realistic, and pragmatic, was the attack on Trump by the other part of the deep state. That this woke jihadi communist part of the deep state, when they orchestrated the attack on Trump, which Trump fortunately survived by his luck, that is where the dominant part of the deep state decided that it would be a you or me battle, do or die battle, and it decided to completely not only sideline but wipe out the other part of the deep state. Because we must remember that all of these were buddies at a point in time.
Hmm.
It is not that they are strangers to each other. They have always worked together. It is just that in the working together at one point, they all had a consensus on globalization, on woke agenda, and slowly the jihadi agenda got in, and the conservative part tolerated it, but slowly it went out of control. And when the attack on Trump happened, the part of the deep state which was conservative, realistic, pragmatic, idealistic, then decided it would be a do or die within the deep state itself, and it completely sidelined and decided to wipe off the other part of the deep state. And that is where the thin majority for Trump actually went to become a very strong victory. And this is where we see not only Trump being pushed to victory, but Trump also coming under a near total control of the deep state. So in the first term, by the end of the first term, Trump was 50% under control. Now he's almost 75% under control of the deep state, especially after the attack, because that deep state which is now victorious, which is conservative, realistic, idealistic, pragmatic, that deep state made it very clear to Trump that without their backing, he won't be able to survive the other part of the deep state. Physically not survive, leave alone winning the election. Because the other part, if it was not checked, they would have managed the election like they managed last time.
Last time.
So Trump had no choice but to become a loyal soldier of the party, so to say, of the victorious part of the deep state, which is now the deep state. Other part has been wiped out. And this part is now controlling Trump. And not only they managed to keep Trump alive, they also managed to get him the elections. And that is where we see Trump 2 is very different from Trump 1. Because Trump 1 was Trump himself. Now it is Trump of the deep state.
So, what are the markers that tell us Trump is controlled by the good deep state?
There are many markers. The first marker is the kind of team Trump would choose. Trump's team, as we see now, cannot be Trump's choice. He would, left to himself, he would go in for yes men. He would go in for wheeler dealers. He would go in for toy girls. He would go in for those dumb, obedient people or very flashy people. What we see here is a Trump team of great substance and idealism. Take a few examples. Elon Musk. Elon Musk always has been supported by the deep state. Much of his success is because of CIA money. Much of valuation of his companies is because of CIA support. If the deep state was not in support of Elon Musk, he would not be Elon Musk. So first is the selection of Elon Musk. Second is selection of Tulsi Gabbard. Third is Vivek Ramaswamy. And most importantly, the Vice President D. Vance. Left to himself, Trump would never select D. Vance. This selection was given to Trump by the deep state, just as the rest of the team has been given to Trump by the deep state. So the team that Trump is leading is very clearly a deep state team. It is not a Trump selection team. And if Trump does not walk the talk, and if he tries to disobey the deep state, we should not be surprised if in the middle of the term, because of some impeachment or some legal point, Trump is put aside and Vice President takes over. We should not be surprised. It's very likely that this happens. And uh, the good part is the successful Hindus in USA have come to the center stage on substance,
Mhm.
not on manipulation. And this is where we see one of the good parts, that the world after a long time is actually being ruled by a very idealistic deep state, a very pragmatic deep state. It's almost like the dream of the philosopher king coming true.
Oh,
It's only that a few bad eggs in the State Department have to be put aside, especially by India, because we are facing the brunt of those difficult eggs in a very bad way around us and within us. But what we see now is the idealistic deep state taking over, and Trump is only a front of that deep state. The team is entirely of the deep state.
what do you exactly mean by that?
Um, in operations, what it means is that the deep state, which is victorious, which is idealistic, real, pragmatic, conservative, they and Trump together will wipe out wokeism by and large across the globe. And this will start by wiping off wokeism in Europe, in USA, in Canada, from academia, from media, from social media. And both of them will be very strong on China. The good part is, regardless of whether Trump is a front of the deep state or himself, both of them have very good synergy in terms of coincidence of opinions and views. So when it
Okay.
comes to policy on China, policy on pharma industry, policy on wars across the world, the new deep state and Trump have a large degree of synergy. So what we believe is that by and large, till this synergy goes on, Trump will continue to be the front. When the synergy is over, or Trump does something against this synergy, that is where the latent impeachment proceedings and everything against Trump, the deep state has enough material against Trump, that will come up, and it will be a situation where if Trump does not backtrack, we will see the vice president take over.
So, how will this control over Trump span out in geopolitics?
In geopolitics, it will span out in terms of the policies, because US policies are very important for global geopolitics.
Right.
The China policy will be very hard towards China. We will see a shift away from Taiwan of the entire semiconductor and computer industry back
Mm-hmm.
to USA and Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And some labor components will come to India and Vietnam. Some will go to Korea, South Korea. Second, we will see pharma industry reboot. The pharma industry also will move largely from China to India. We will see a rebooting of the American Asian policy, and pivot to Asia will again come in the center.
Mm-hmm.
We will also see anti-jihadi, anti-woke policy across the globe. The entire ecosystem will be slowly dismantled. The gainers in this will be uh, India, Israel, and to some extent Taiwan. They will be the major beneficiaries of this geopolitical shift. And the major losers will be China, Turkey, and to a great extent the the jihadi global network, Pakistan. They will be
Mhm.
losers. Russia
Mhm.
also will be a gainer, by the way. Russia, India, Israel, and Taiwan, they will be the major beneficiaries. Pakistan, Turkey, China, they will be the major losers. And this geopolitical shift will also bring in a technological and economic shift. And it will accelerate the fall of China. We will see an accelerated fall of China, and someday we'll see that collapse, a large collapse in economic and military terms. So we will see a complete shift in geopolitics in the Trump too, because largely he will be a front of the deep state. And if he denies to be one, we might see a midway change. In any case, even if he completes the second term, next time we will see D1s.
Mm-hmm.
And D1s will continue the agenda of the same deep state, which to a large extent is in India's benefit. But there are difficulties on the way because of a erstwhile lobby in the State Department, which is trying to do a regime change in India and in states around India, and trying to get India into a war with China or Pakistan, just as they got Ukraine into war with Russia. In Ukraine, they say, we will fight this war to the last Ukrainian. And they want a similar kind of thing to happen in India, which is where the non-friendly part of the US policy comes up.
So, will India come to the center of global geopolitics? Is there a possibility to that?
All the ingredients are in place, provided a few things roll on and happen as we want it to happen. The first is economy. If the performance goes on for 6-7% for a few years. Second important element is education, because once we have plucked the low-hanging fruit of low-end manufacture and low-end software and so on, the next fruit to pluck will require a higher degree of skill in the lowest level of workforce and a very high degree of skill on the higher end. So this is something where the educational reforms will come in, which we have not done. Even the new education policies could address some of the concerns, but the qualitative aspect still is left out. What they have addressed is the curriculum aspect. They have not addressed the teaching aspect or the learning quality aspect. And then we have to show some vision. And one vision is what I have put forward of holistic spiritual pluralism. Pluralism. I don't know why I not pronounce it right. So the vision of holistic spiritual pluralism, which has 5 components of cultural pluralism, spiritual pluralism, pluralism. I don't know why I'm getting tongue twisted in
That's a sounds like a tongue slip.
Yeah. So pluralism in areas of spirituality, culture, a social capitalism, holistic healing, and true democracy. These are the 5 components where if we can create a ideological package and market it across the world and first implement it here, we can actually drive the ideological agenda. And before we do that, we have to set right a historical wrong of not having acknowledged and appreciated the Hindu Holocaust. So first we have to do historical establishment of the Hindu Holocaust and then get into this ideological package and then show some courage and sacrifice to implement it across the world. That is where we back down. We don't want casualties. We'll have to take some casualties. And the last is the governance reforms, which nobody has touched in the last 25 years. The political parties have come and gone, but the corruption, the inefficiency, the outdated systems of governance are exactly as they were. In fact, they have become more corrupt than before. Now, to do all of this, we require a strong ideological lead. That is where the difficulty is. I had said before that you can have a ordinary political leader, you can have a leader with an ideology, or you can have an ideological leader.
Mm.
Now, ideological leaders are not easy to produce. Every country sees them once in 50 years. And the difference I have said before, explained before in some of our discussions, between an ideological leader and a leader with an ideology. Lenin, Mao, Khomeini, Golwalkar, these are ideological leaders. And people who follow them, Stalin, Deng Xiaoping, Khomeini, Bhaurao Devaras, these were people with leaders with an ideology. They were not ideological leaders. They were following the ideology created by their predecessor, who was an ideological leader. Now, an ideological leader does not have to please anybody. He does not have to maintain a network of patronage. He does not have to stand on the bricks of patronage and bricks of support, conditional support from followers, supporters.
Right.
People are
Right.
following him because of the ideology he says and he creates. He is creating the ideology, or is creating an interpretation of an ideology. But there is an original element to the intellectual content he propounds. Whereas leader with an ideology is one who understands politics and organization very well. He is not an ideology creator. He is following the ideology created by an ideological leader, but he understands people, organization, politics very well. And he knows how to maintain a patronage, a network of patronage, and sit on top of that brick house and put the throne on top of it and sit there. But he can't disturb the bricks on which the throne rests. So that is where the difficulty is, that Narendra Modi is a leader with an ideology. He is not an ideological leader. So he will have no choice but to maintain a network of patronage. He will have no choice of those who support him in RSS and in Beijing. See, if all the people who are in that patronage network, they decide to go against him, he will be left nowhere. Very few people will follow him and work for him because of his thoughts or because of his ideology. So he is terribly dependent on both RSS and his supporters in Beijing. So he is not a Khomeini or a Golwalkar who will just stand with a mic under a tree and recreate an organization just on the basis of the power of thoughts. So what will happen is it makes it difficult to take the kind of decisions and to roll out the kind of ideological agenda which I have put forward. For that, an ideological leader, a leader with an ideology will not suffice. And on the horizon, we don't see any of such leader. That's the difficult part of it. That you can roll out a secular program with the help of a leader with an ideology. It may be a brilliant program, but still a secular program. The moment you have to roll out an ideological program, you need an ideological leader, not just a leader with an ideology. Especially when you are contesting very powerful forces both within India and outside India. And on the opposite side of the ideological spectrum, you have ideological leaders of some sort. So that is where the difficulty is, that we are waiting for an ideological leader and we just hope somebody will be around the corner. Nobody is seen as of now on the horizon. So in that sense, one is reminded of that title of an existential play, Waiting for the Godot. Where is he?
It's a conversation that opens deep secrets and renders geopolitics even more interesting. See you all again. Namaste.
Namaste.